welcome to Keeping It Real. My name is Anna Lefebvre. I am with the amazing, sometimes, I don't know, sometimes he is, sometimes not, Paul Chambers.
That was the greatest intro ever. Flattery will get you everywhere with Lee. Trust me. I love it.
So, one half of the Thundercats.
There you go.
I got you.
Shout out He-Man.
So recently on My Unbounded Life, plug, the magazine, I wrote an article. Did I write an article or did I publish an article? I think I published an article. Yeah, I published an article. I didn't write it. One of my staff wrote it, staff members. I published an article called Sex versus Intimacy and the Definition in Between. So if you want to know the definition, click the link below. I will have that listed below. But we're going to talk about how to rekindle a relationship and how to bring intimacy back into a relationship that has a drought. Okay. What I mean by drought is that you guys, something happened. Maybe you guys got too busy. Maybe there was a fight. Maybe there was just, your relationship has just been stagnant and it's kind of just like a bumpy road and it's been that way, but you are determined at this very moment, which is why you're listening, to fix it and to change it, because I do have a lot of tips for this. I will let Paul go ahead and take the lead, and then I'll go ahead and just add my little 2 cents in. But sending it over to you, Paul.
Well, first and foremost, I think you have to establish what is the reason for the drought. You mentioned you got too busy, whether it be work or I know a big one for a lot of couples is kids, lack of alone time. So I think that's the first part, is establishing what is the cause for the drought, and then taking the necessary steps to improve the situation. If it's work, maybe you two take a week off, or take however many days you can spare, take a few days off and get some alone time. If it's kids, send them baby's kids over to grandma's house if you can, and get some alone time. However you've got to do it, alone time is key. If you have to set up a date night every week, whatever you have got to do to get out of that drought, it always comes back to alone time to connect and reestablish why you two, if you are in love, why you two fell in love with each other in the first place.
Okay. Let's go back to the kid thing. Now, we both don't have kids, but we're everyone's favorite uncle and aunt. So the reason why I'm mentioning that is because we hear and see a lot of relationships, and we see and hear a lot of relationships with kids. Also, for the people that do not know, I do have degrees in behavioral science. So I can speak upon this because I have the actual accreditation for it. What I see a lot is that people feel replaced when there's a child involved. So somebody feels replaced by the child. It could be either or. And the child sometimes seems to be valued more than the relationship itself, but the relationship is the backbone of the whole entire family. Without you two, there would be no kid. Now, I do believe that the spouses are supposed to be, that's your main thing. That is your number one, your husband or your wife. Because what happens is when you respect and love your husband or wife first, everything else will fall into place. Everything. Because what's going to happen is you're on one accord. So things like sharing a bed with, your child, because of things of not wanting to get up in the middle of the night, can actually hurt your relationship and the future of relationship more than doing well, just because you don't want to get up and do those kind of things with the kid. Now, understand that there is going to be a learning curve, especially if you are a new parent or you have a newborn. So I do, in respects with that, of course, there's going to be probably a dry period. Medically, there's supposed to be a dry period. So what I'm talking about is right down the road, 6 weeks after, 8 weeks after, realizing okay, well, we have to make sure that there's time for you and I. And the whole, someone watching a child might be a little difficult, especially if you don't have the funds for someone. But that's when you make it interesting, you make it fun. That's when you have quickies. That's when you use the baby monitor to watch the child and let them cry it out a little bit. So you can establish and reestablish, because we all can agree sex for a lot of people is a very big and important part of their relationship. And I worded it just like that on purpose, because it's not for everybody. Some people can do whatever they want. Some people only have it on a Tuesday after God came back. Just kidding. It's not.
It's
You know
true.
what I mean?
It is true.
But
I've met so many people, and I like to have different conversations with couples, and people that are in relationships, naturally, because I'm inquisitive, and I have come across, people that, I've talked to girls that, oh, my sex drive is only maybe like a 3. And I ask them, okay, well, how high is your husband's sex drive? And they'll be like, oh, a 7. And I'm like, so how does that dynamic work?
yeah.
And how do you two make that work? Because that's, as far as the sex drive goes, that's a pretty big gap as far as, the differences there. So it does happen. I've seen, situations where it's not as important for some people as it is for the partners.
Yeah, and sometimes it's something medical. It could be
Mhm.
literally something medical, but the thing is, you have to be proactive in it. So what's going on? So if you have feel like the intimacy, and I'm using intimacy for a reason. If you're trying to realize why I'm using intimacy instead of sex, again, the link is below, because I explain sex versus intimacy in great detail in that link. So if you feel like the intimacy is not there, I want you, the biggest tip that I can give you is go back to the beginning of your relationship. What were you guys doing? What were you doing to catch this person's eye? And what was that person doing to catch your eye? And rekindle it from that. Now, I understand at the beginning of a relationship, you don't have all the stress, you don't have all the bills together, you might not have children together. If you have children now, you might not know the
Honeymoon
parent.
phase.
Yeah, you might not know the parents at this point or the friends. You might not have all this work stuff that's going in, because you're only telling the person probably the good in your life. I get that. That's fine. Go back to the romance that you guys did, right? So if you don't think that's going to work, or if that's not working, you need to take steps. I'm not saying, okay, well, we're not doing it, so we need to do it on the 13th, this Friday, July 2021. That's it,
Pencil that in. Pencil
Yeah,
it in.
look,
This thing
pencil
we're
it
doing
in.
right there.
No, that's not what I'm saying. It's a buildup. You need to start doing a buildup. That's why I said at the very beginning, because some people do have sex right away. Some people don't have sex right away. Okay, that's none of my business. But what I'm trying to say is that don't try to pressure it, but also keep it in the back of your head that you need to go ahead and start rekindling. And what I mean by rekindling is start date nights again. Date nights don't have to be elaborate. Date nights don't even have to leave your house. Just start rekindling that connection that brought you guys together, right? Then you could do things like tantric sex. Tantric sex brings people together back on a spiritual level. It might be funny at first, and if your spouse isn't willing, just kind of explain to them where you're coming from. But there's little things like this that's a buildup to make you want to have it. Because there's some people that are able to just, okay, it's my duty, I'm just lay back here and do that. I don't want that to be you. I don't want that to be you. So what are some other steps? I was saying to rekindle the beginning, go back to the beginning, what you guys did to find that romance again, tantric sex. What's other stuff that you can suggest?
Well, you mentioned tantric sex, and maybe if your partner isn't that down for it, that brings up being open-minded. Step out of your comfort zone a little bit. Try something that you've never done before. Maybe you've always wanted to try it, but for whatever reason you didn't. Step out of your comfort zone and try something new. That way, it's a new experience for the both of you. It could bring you closer together, even if it's something silly. You can both laugh at each other, laugh at yourselves, anything like that. Keep an open mind. Try something new.
The unwillingness to try something that your partner wants to try is not good for your relationship. And
No.
it shouldn't be a deal breaker. It should be something that is in your mind to wake you up. Because it's like, if I really want this relationship, why I have to be more open, because what's going to happen is going to be a one-sided relationship. No relationship's 50-50. I'm not there, maybe there's a one or two, but relationships are not 50-50. There's 70-30s, there's 60-40s, but they shouldn't be at a situation where it's just one-sided and always just about one person and what they're willing to do, especially if it's not going to hurt you, or if it goes against your morals.
My whole thing is, if I'm not going to be open minded enough to try things, to try new things that my partner wants to introduce, not even sexually, just anything. If I'm not open minded enough to do that, then that would mean just trying to go find somebody that is 100% exactly like me. And that's going
Mm-hmm.
to get boring for somebody like me. I want to try new things. Obviously, it's good to have certain things in common, but why would I want to go out and date somebody that's exactly like me? I will get extremely bored very early on, and it's just not going to work.
Here's something I want to bring up. There's this thing where people are saying like, oh, if that person's for you is if they are the version of you. What do you think of that after what you just said? If they're the version of you, like, oh, like in a relationship where it's a man and a woman, or a woman and a man, they're like, oh, she is the male version of me. What do you think about that?
I would not want a girl that is the male version of me. I will be perfectly honest. I think it's the biggest load of BS. I do not want somebody that's exactly like me.
I think people
I
that
just
say
date
that
myself then if I was going to do that.
I think people that say that don't like to be wrong, and they don't want to be, they're not open-minded. And if you tell them something, and if you tell them that something that goes against what they think, it's a little bit of, I don't want to say that word. I want to say it's a little bit of them thinking that they're too big to receive some kind of other viewpoint. So you can take and adjust it to whatever word and definition that that goes in that. But I would never want a male version of me. I've
And
seen male
then
versions of me, and I'm like, hell no. No, we're not. No, we're
and then I
not.
mean, to add to that, I mean, self awareness is important. I have no problem admitting that I am a serious control freak, but I'm not a control freak to the point where I don't have to be in control of every little thing. I am fine relinquishing control at times. There's nothing wrong with it. You know,
Yeah.
it's levels to it. It takes steps to it for me. Yeah, because I'm a huge control freak, but I don't have a problem relinquishing control, and that's one of those things that those type of people, if they want somebody that's exactly like them, they fear not being in control. And sometimes you just gotta roll with it. Like, I mean, what fun is that?
I mean, if it works for you and is the version of you, then whatever. But for me, no. I'm a control freak too, and control freak, because you're a control freak, that's not a negative connotation. It's negative when you're unwilling to change,
Yeah.
or not unwilling to change only, but not willing to submit to somebody else's idea. The funny thing is, because I have been in control of my work life, I've been working pretty much all my life. I've been working over half my life, right? So I'm used to being in charge. I've been running companies. I'm used to being in charge. When I go home, I don't want to be in charge. But that doesn't mean I'm putting all the pressures on you. I'm still doing stuff, but I am not in charge. I don't want to be in charge of my relationship and ideas. I'm more of a traditionalist, which is really funny because I'm extremely feminine. I'm a huge feminist at the same time. So, yeah, no, it wouldn't work out. I need somebody who is definitely alpha, but also I need someone who's a little bit more loving than I am. I'm very hard. Like, I'm just like, because, and the thing is too, is I do a lot. I deal with a lot of people. So if I get emotional about everyone's problem, and then I don't become the problem solver, and I'm the problem solver. People come to me to solve their problems. If it's with my marketing company, if it's with relationship issues, if it's with other stuff, even my friendships, usually most of my friendships, except the ones that I'm actually like my best friends, they don't do that to me. I solve issues. What's your issue? What's your problem? You need to roll up. You need to take care. Like, what do you want me to do? You know what I mean? So that, yeah, okay. And then going back to rekindling the relationship, because I feel like that was an important, subject to bring up, because I don't like that. Oh, that's the male version. Okay. Two peas in the pod. How's that work out? We're going to work out. Good for you. But anyhow, yeah, it's just there's certain things that you can do, but you need to be proactive with it. And if you're not proactive with it, then honestly, you're doing your relationship and the time served and your family a disservice. Because we all know how important intimacy is in a relationship. And also, you have to recognize what stopped intimacy. And if you're wrong, you need to admit that you're wrong, because just admitting that you're wrong could honestly just lift that whole entire chip on the other person's shoulder, or it can lift the insecurities they have about you and the relationship and dismiss it right away. Because the thing is, if you don't communicate, what is left? We're all going to guess. Like our brain's not going to stop like, okay, well, you're not going to leave an empty statement. You're going to fill that statement. And that statement that you filled may not be correct. They could have had an attitude with you because of something that happened at work, and you're thinking it's about you, and it might not, even be about you at all. So resolving in the issue at hand. I hate when there is the sociologist that a lot of people don't like. His name is Karl Marx, and I always liked him in this regard. He's wrote the conflict theory, and he said there needs to be conflict, because when you have conflict, then there's resolution in your relationship. You didn't use relationship, but the conflict can actually move along. So conflict is good. Conflict should be exciting if you handle it in a mature nature, and if you are willing to apologize. I don't understand why people can't apologize. I don't understand the whole you're too good to apologize. And the whole, oh, I'm sorry you felt that way. No, dude, if you actually are, you know what I mean? Learn how to apologize. I don't get it. I love apologizing. It's like a free get out of jail. I'm just kidding. No, did I do that? I'm just kidding. But yeah, don't be too big to apologize. I don't understand. And I think sometimes it just comes from problems in your childhood that you didn't resolve, and maybe having a narcissistic parent where you were never allowed to have your own opinion. So if you feel like you apologize, now all of a sudden you're going back to that whole entire situation. So you really have to do some self-searching and some soul searching to figure out where these issues and these underlying issues are coming from, especially not being able to apologize. Because as long as I've known people, I don't think anybody's perfect. So at one point or another, you have to apologize for something, or you should be apologizing. But resolving the root of the problem, because in technology, there's an issue. Okay, let's just say you have an issue, right? There's an issue at hand. You can't get into your email. Okay, so let me see if I can actually do this really good. This analogy. What's my analogies? Why do I got so many analogies and whatever? So there's always the problem at the hand, and then there's the root of the problem. Is it an issue with this server? Is it an issue with you not remembering your password correctly? So there's always the issue at hand, and then the issue under. Like, for instance, one of my exes, after a certain time of the day, he wouldn't reply, or his replies would be really slow. And I'm a pattern. I notice patterns because that's what I do for a living. I have to be very analytical and notice certain things with social media, with writing for websites, with timing and everything like that. I have to look at numbers and statistics. So at a certain time of the day, he would stop replying, and it irritated me. But it was a baby relationship, and I don't want to look like the crazy girl back then. Now I'm okay with it. Now I'm just like, what the hell are you doing? Excuse me, sir. So on Monday this time, Tuesday this time, yes, I'm crazy. This was already established. Wednesday this time, I do not give a F anymore. This is what happens, guys, when you're in your 30s. But it was a baby relationship. I was late 20s. not to postmark it, but whatever. So anyhow, instead of me asking him, I just got really insecure and I'm just like, what is he doing? Right. So the issue at hand wasn't the fact that he wasn't texting me back. It was the issue of what was he actually doing at 3 o'clock.
And I can say I've actually come across this situation before due to my work schedule, which you know very well. I sleep at a certain time during the day. I've woken up to text messages before. What the hell are you doing? Where you at? Why you not? I'm like, I am asleep. You know what time I work. That's why I make it a point to communicate, you know,
Yeah.
my sleep pattern for the most part. And it's just like, you know, you've never had an issue whenever you could, you know, text me at whatever time when I'm asleep and right when I'm up, boom. And it's almost like clockwork and it's never been an issue. I've come across those before and it's just
It was
simple
all it was all
communication.
always it was always an issue. They just bring it up now because they felt comfortable. They were just
Mhm.
waiting. They were just waiting. And even for me too, like if I had brought that issue up, it would have probably been resolved. Like a lot of our issues were actually resolved a little bit later on after a simple conversation. A simple conversation that could have happened when I was in the United States instead of somewhere else. I'm like, oh shit, I am crazy. Oh
Yes.
man. But yeah.
Communication solves so many issues, but what goes hand in hand with that, a lack of communication can turn something so small into a huge, enormous problem that should have never even happened because you're not communicating.
Yeah. Okay. So going back over rekindling intimacy, my tips are to make sure that you guys are having time for yourself because you are the backbone of the relationship. If you have kids, family, work, whatever, we always want to put a monetary thing on everything but relationships. And if you actually put a monetary value on your relationships, people would probably value relationships much more and a lot better. So that was my number one. Two was to go back to and this is not in any kind of order, guys, but go back to the beginning of the relationship and see what you guys were doing that brought you guys together. Where was that chemistry? What was the chemistry about? Um, Also, I was saying do things like tantric sex, do stuff different where it's more intimate and it's not just about on one level. Also, don't put a pressure on yourself where you're going to calendar this in, but also do not at the same time not try to enhance and improve and try to get there. Because, like I said earlier, we all agree for most people, sex is a very important part of a romantic relationship. What was the other ones?
Um,
The hamsters aren't spinning fast enough in my brain.
be open minded,
Mm-hmm.
communicate,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Solve the issue.
solve the issue, make alone time a priority. Just you two, nobody else. However, you've got to do it. Work around your schedules, take a day off, get a babysitter if you can, a little 10-minute quickie while they're down for a nap, whatever. Value alone time. Um, oh, I'm having a brain fart. I just had another one and I lost
And
it.
if the other person is not interested in having it because maybe you guys are not going to Pound Town very well, then you need to listen to my podcast first off. I will link that below as well. Sex tips from a porn star. That's like a really good episode. Um, you guys just need to work on it. Maybe your sex sucks. Recognize it, fix it, experiment. Experiment. There's so many different ways to do it. You can bring in videos, you can bring in toys, you can bring in another. I'm just kidding.
Oh, that's what it was. Uh, complacency.
Hmm.
Complacency is a huge, huge thing. It's almost inevitable when you get into a routine, a rhythm. You've been together with someone for so long. It is almost inevitable that you two at some point are going to become complacent You just get in that routine, and even the sex can become complacent. And try to avoid that at all costs if possible. And if you do become complacent, try to catch it early on, establish why. And this goes back to establishing why you become complacent and go from there.
Yeah. That is a memory.
See it. I see it. I know you well enough. I know when you're
those one of those microwave memory.
One of them hot pockets. No steak, just a hot pocket.
No, I'm vegetarian. Vegetarian.
2 minute nuke that hot pocket up.
Stop creating excuses. Basically, stop creating excuses. You're not bigger than your relationship. If you think so, you're probably gonna be single.
Learn how to apologize. Learn how to apologize. Do not be too prideful. Pride comes before the fall. That's a huge relationship killer. As people are just too proud.
That's why I just don't get it, because when I'm wrong is when I learn the most. So are you not able to learn? And that's probably a lot of people. They're unwilling to learn. That's why they don't want to learn how to have better sex. That's why they don't want to learn about their partner. That's why they don't want to learn about how to keep relationships better. But if you're here listening to this, that's not you. So I'm proud of you, especially if you made it to this mark. You know what I mean? Well, you have anything else to say, Paulie?
That's about all I got.
All right, guys. My name is Anna Lefebvre.
And apparently I'm Paulie.
Paulie. I need to go to
just like how Anna Banana has been, around you. Paulie has been, it's pretty much been with me since I was a kid.
You live in Texas.
Not Paulie, just Paulie.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, like, where's the Italians coming from?
No, just Paulie now.
I like these glasses because you can't see my eye movement.
I just noticed
my eyes are going.
I literally just
noticed. I love that because I low-key have really big eyes. You can see, like, when I'm just like, when I'm questioning stuff, I have to make sure I'm careful, because you know how people have tells, like, and I'm very, like, I notice people's tells, and I notice my tell because, when I go back and I look at myself, I'm always on film or whatever. I'm like, oh, that's your tell right there. I have a couple of tells, and I've been working on that today, actually, because I just want to be the most stoic person ever. I love being stoic. No one knows. That used to that people like, you're so stupid. In my head. But once again, my name is Anna Lefebvre.
I'm gonna have to go back and look at all of our footage now when I think you might be calling me stupid.
When?
No, I'm gonna have to go back and look.
No, I never called you stupid. No, but I was when I'm thinking about other situations, there's something that I do, and I know I could feel it, but you can't see it because my lashes are too long, and I'm just like, I gotta start wearing these now from now on. But I can tell. I have another tell that all of a sudden I just started doing. Tip of the day: make sure you clean under your fingernails, guys. I saw somebody with dirty ass fingernails on Instagram. All right, my name is Anna. I'm out. Bye.
Yeah.